California. Thank you for joining me and my colleagues and our federal law enforcement partners this afternoon. I traveled from Sacramento today to emphasize the importance of this investigation, Operation Silver Shores, to the United States Attorney's Office, to the entire United States Department of Justice, and to other departments of the federal government. The investigation is important because it targets a group that preyed on victims across the United States, predominantly the elderly. Those victims included some 370 individuals who were collectively cheated out of more than $30 million. We're proud to announce that a federal grand jury here in Fresno has returned an indictment charging more than 20 members of a transnational fraud organization associated with the Norteño criminal organization with wire fraud and money laundering crimes. And we are proud to announce that at least 15 arrests of those fraudsters were effected today across the country, from California to Texas to Florida. Our office will prosecute those fraudsters with vigor, but of course there would be no prosecutions without the hard work of the special agents and inspectors of our law enforcement partners, starting with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and continuing with the Internal Revenue Service and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Accordingly, I'm pleased to introduce first FBI Special Agent in Charge, Sid Patel, to say a few words. Sid, thank you.
So my name's Sid Patel. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for FBI's Sacramento Field Office. Today's announcement is about the arrest of the criminals behind a timeshare refund scam. These criminals coerced their victims not once, but twice. What makes this case different is who was behind this. It was members of the Norteño gang, a vicious and violent criminal organization known for drug trafficking and intimidation. They're not usually known for online fraud. It's a new scheme. These gangs pivoted to online fraud where they preyed on our community's most vulnerable population, our elderly population. They first convinced their victims to buy non-existent timeshares. Next, they posed as attorneys who claimed that the victims were each entitled to a legal settlement. Each victim believed that they would receive hundreds of thousands of dollars in restitution for a multi-million-dollar criminal case settlement. All they needed to do was to collect on the settlement, was to pay legal fees. These criminals stole more than $30 million from these victims in total. Many victims experienced financial losses that they won't be able to recover from. These are life savings. Now, a little bit about the timeline. These criminal actors were doing this for over the last decade. They were contacting victims who owned or once owned timeshares. In 2021, the FBI and the IRS criminal investigative groups investigated after identifying suspicious financial activity linked to a fraud ring. From 2022 to 2023, the fraud tied to Norteño affiliated members across California, Texas, and Florida. At the end of 2023 is when the case investigations start to open and really start to grow to the next level. In 2024, the investigation expanded under the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, the OSADEF designation. Today, 15 arrests have been made in California, Texas, and Florida. Now let's talk about what they did. They used real attorney bar association numbers and seemingly authentic seals to fool victims. They sent phony legal agreements demanding money. They moved the cash through U.S. banks controlled by the gang members. And now why does this matter? Just as we're all changing with the times, so is gang activity. With so many tools and personal data available online, gangs are pivoting to these online scams. Now, why are they turning to the scams? Because they think it's safer with less risk of getting caught. And it's more profitable than dealing drugs at times. But from the FBI's perspective, whether you're slinging drugs or online scams, we will find you and we will hold you accountable. The success of this operation and the charges these individuals now face are a direct result of the strong collaboration we have with our fellow law enforcement partners. We work closely with our local, state, and federal partners to include the U.S. Attorney's Office, IRS, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Homeland Security Task Force, Bakersfield PD, Truckee PD. This is a collaborative effort. Together, we exposed a complex fraud led by gangs that drained the life savings of elderly victims. We're grateful to the arrest teams in Fresno, Bakersfield, Sacramento, Marysville, San Jose, Fremont, and Stockton, California. Also in Port St. Lucie and Plantation, Florida, and Amarillo, Texas, where, as I said earlier, we effected 15 arrests. Today's announcement also serves as a cautionary tale. Criminals are actively trying to raid your life savings, which you worked for your entire life. Question all communication you receive and never offer money to anyone without thoroughly investigating who they are. When in doubt, contact law enforcement. We're here to help. Visit the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. You can just go to ic3.gov for more information about these kinds of scams. Or you can also call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Submit a tip at tips.fbi.gov. We can only keep our community safe with your help. I'd like to introduce IRS Special Agent in Charge, Linda Wynn. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Linda Wynn. I'm the Special Agent in charge of IRS Criminal Investigation in the Oakland Field Office, covering the Eastern District of California. Before I begin, I just wanted to thank U.S. Attorney Eric Grant for providing us with this opportunity to come out here and talk to you today. The alleged activities in this transnational restitution timeshare fraud investigation operated throughout the U.S., Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Mexico. The scheme was primarily run by the Norteño criminal organization, gang members, and associates. Fraudsters targeted elderly victims who either owned or formerly owned timeshare properties. The victims were informed that they were entitled to proceeds of a class action lawsuit due to timeshare-related litigation in the amount of $350,000. So in order to release the funds, the victims were advised to remit fees to release the fictitious class action proceeds. The fraudsters posed as various U.S. government agencies using real government employee names and spoofed government telephone numbers to convince their victims of such, many of which lost their whole life savings in this fraud. Defendants also created and utilized bank accounts in DBAs, shell companies to launder the victim funds. Total losses just in the U.S. currently stand at approximately $30 million. The government will not ask you for fees to obtain legitimate money owed to you. IRS-CI is uniquely qualified to investigate financial fraud of all types because we are the experts of financial investigations, and we will follow the money wherever it may lead, whether here or internationally. The numerous victims throughout the country and world deserve justice, and that is why we are here today to deter opportunistic criminal activity from the defendants. We cannot do this work alone. Our investigations are in partnership with many other federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. IRS appreciates the teamwork, which extends out to the public, all of you here today, and those watching across the country. Thank you for your time and attention. Now I just wanted to introduce you to the U.S. Postal Service Inspector in Charge, Stephen Sherwood.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Sherwood. I'm the Inspector in Charge with the United States Postal Inspection Service, San Francisco Division. Postal inspectors have always stood against fraud in the U.S. mail, so I'm proud of the dedication of the postal inspectors who participated in this investigation. Postal customers face victimization from increasingly complex and organized criminal enterprises, which is why teamwork like today's operation is so important. I would like to thank the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of California and our federal and local law enforcement partners for their collaboration in bringing these defendants to face justice in the court of law. I'll now turn it back to U.S. Attorney Grant.
Thank you, Steve and Linda and Sid, and now we'd be pleased to take any questions you might have.
I have a question for Special Agent Patel. You know, as you say, this is a cautionary tale, but it sounds like these criminals were extremely thorough. They used real government employee names, they used real attorney bar association numbers and realistic seals. So what can we learn from this? How can we be more thorough as consumers?
That's a great question, and it really comes down to do not give money out to individuals that you are not familiar with and haven't done your own investigative efforts on, right? Don't freely give out the money. Don't give your routing numbers. Don't give your account numbers. Be very careful of this. And as I mentioned, a big vulnerable group we have are the elderly, who've been saving and saving their monies and their life savings, and with new internet schemes and different ways of being able to defraud these individuals, even the use of AI to be able to defraud individuals, it's getting more and more likely that we're seeing this. So just be cautionary, contact law enforcement if you have questions. You can, like I said, you can call 1-800-CALL-FBI, and we can try to get you in touch with the right people to try to get you the information you need, or if you have tip information, or ic3.gov. But it's a great question, and these new types of crimes and these types of techniques are adapting, and we are too as well, to try to focus on these efforts.
I have a question. Do we know specific areas where the suspects were arrested in Florida, Texas, and California? Would you like to mention in which cities they were?
Sure. I think I mentioned a couple of the cities earlier. One was Amarillo, Texas. I'm sure it's in the write-up as well, but another one was in Port St. Lucie and Plantation, Florida. Thank you.
Were there any victims here in the Central Valley?
The victims, I think if you can see the map on the left there, the victims are all over the country, but I think it does include the Central Valley of California, yes.
And it looks like, from what I can see, one of those red dots, meaning one of the defendants, it looks like is also in Central California in some aspect. Do you know what city that was?
Well, Sid, you mentioned several local police departments here in California. I don't know if you have that list handy again, but
I just get to it.
but yeah, why don't you do
absolutely.
that?
So some of the partners I mentioned earlier, Truckee, right, Bakersfield. We've had some activity down in the Central Valley, Fresno area. I mean, we've had it across. So Fresno, Bakersfield, Sacramento, Marysville, San Jose, Fremont, Stockton were some of the locations that I mentioned earlier. So yes, quite a bit.
And those 15 arrests, what charges are they facing, or what are they indicted for?
Yeah, the charges are wire fraud and money laundering crimes. And if you want the gory details, they're in the very thick indictment, copies of which are over there, and we're happy to provide those for you.
Is there going to be any restitution for these victims?
The short answer is I don't know. We always try for that. Unfortunately, in these schemes, the money is usually gone by the time that we're able to apprehend these individuals. But we do take that aspect of these investigations very seriously, and we do our best to recover anything there is to recover.
And to clarify, you said that this scheme had been going on for a decade?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely know that it was occurring in 2018, and as we're diving even deeper, we're decades broad enough to be able to say that it's been happening the last 10 or less years. And so absolutely.
How did this first come to your attention?
So we learned it from another law enforcement agency, and we all worked closely together, and they tipped it to us, and working closely with IRS and our fellow partners, we were able to get more and more of our agents and analysts onto this investigation to do a greater and deeper dive to it.
Do you expect more arrests in the future?
We sure hope to, absolutely. We have ongoing investigations that we're going to continue on with, and we hope to get more arrests.
And this Silver Shores, is that the name of the fake?
That's just our operation
Okay.
name. It's our name, so nothing to be confused with the Norteños or any other groups out there. So.
Do you believe there's more victims out there that could report this issue?
I think there's more to come. I think we will continue to work our ongoing investigations. wherever it takes us. And yeah, I do. I'm very optimistic that we'll find more criminals out there.
And I know you guys said elderly. Do you know the average age of your victims?
You know, I don't know that offhand. I know they've been in senior status. I'm not sure if that's something that we know offhand, but it's basically been in that senior status category. So, and it makes sense, right? You've got a lot of folks that are in the elderly that have large sums of money, and maybe they're not everyone is as proficient to some of the new tools with AI and technology, and they can become victim to this. So.
How's your office right now working in light of this to stay up to date, obviously, on technology and stay ahead of the criminals as they develop AI and different technologies to become more inconspicuous?
That's a great question. So we have some of the best agents, right, and investigators in the world, and so they are taking time, in addition to the investigative work that they do, for trainings and just learning on their own. We also have great partnerships with the private sector, where we try to learn from them and see what the new tools are and how we can adapt and how we can change. So we try to be as adaptive as the criminals are, if not more. So that's how we learn. That's how we get better. Continuous improvement, continuous training.
If there are no further questions, thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your time and attention. That concludes the press conference.